Why is it starting over? That's weird. And it's off center. How to get off center? This is so
Dude,
weird.
I don't know what happened, but I heard your dog shake right as the music got started. Like it was like perfectly synchronized. It was great.
Yeah, shaking it off. Yep.
Just shaking it off. What's up, Nerf herders? Welcome back to the N.A.P. We have got some. I don't know if it's juicy, but we've got some different news. I suppose.
Yeah, we got some
slightly
news.
different news. We're not talking crap on Christopher Nolan this time around. But how are you guys doing today? Let me know down in the comments below.
Yeah, Josh, what is today? Today's a Wednesday. We were going to record on a Monday, but things happened, and
we were going to record on a Friday, and things didn't happen then either.
Right. How's your week been so far?
I've been battling a headache, like like a chronic headache every single day. And I'm in like round 12.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's going super good. So if I'm a little spacey in this episode, you'll have to bear with me a little bit. But
all right, I'll carry you.
Yeah, good deal. Your back's gonna hurt. I'm fat. What is up, Mr. Josh Howell? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I've been busy this week. We've been shooting I've been shooting and editing a lot of commercials for work lately. We're coming into our fall campaign. We're doing a bunch of auctions online for some stuff for my nonprofit. So I've been filming a lot of stuff and putting it together, and just had some time to come up for air to hang out with you tonight, talk about some movie stuff and some TV stuff and whatever.
I'm loving it.
Well, we just got done with that trailer reaction. For those that didn't see it, we watched the trailer for Ratched, for the Netflix show on Nurse Ratched, and that was fun.
That was interesting. Normally, so like in our reaction history, we haven't reacted to a whole lot of horror stuff because, well, first of all, it's generally not my thing, and for some reason there also wasn't a huge amount of it available, or at least that was coming across our radar.
Right.
But this was like one of the first ones. This and oh man, what was it? It was a Del Toro film. Man, I can't remember what that was called, but it was like where the kid's like feeding his dad, who's turned into a Wendigo.
Oh yeah, that Antlers.
Yeah.
That was a while ago that we watched that. Yeah.
I think that got delayed too.
It did. It got majorly delayed. I think till 2021, which I'm crushed about.
For some reason, like that one didn't seem like my style either, but for some reason I was really into it. But Ratched also kind of got me because I'm like into that psychological horror stuff, not necessarily like slashers or something like that, but I guess creature features and psychological horror are two things. And I mean, you said it best during the trailer reactions. Like, what better psychological horror than like a fucked up nurse in an insane asylum?
I know, a power hungry, super like personal nurse in that kind of role. Yeah, that creeps me out, man. Anything that involves people making you take pills and you can't go outside, and it's a setting that will always put me in an unease state. And this is created by the same creators of American Horror Story, and I have watched a lot of American Horror Story, and I never thought it was scary. I was always disappointed in it. Really? I remember the first season coming out, and I was like, this is some lame shit. And then after a few seasons came out, and I think it went on Netflix, my wife started watching it, and then I stepped in and started watching it again. And it never got to a point where it was scary, but there were some story arcs that were super well written. And they had, at times in their high points, they had great writing where they were bringing in a large cast of characters and giving them all balance and twisting and turning and bending their stories to all work in this massive narrative. And I could give the show credit for that. Not all the time, but some of their middle and earlier seasons had some really great stuff around it. And so if that crew put their sights on the story of Nurse Ratched, I think it could be. I think it could be creepy. I think it could be eerie, and I think it could be really well written.
Like I said, and aside from like a few outliers, Netflix doesn't invest their money into bad projects. I mean, they don't interfere a lot, which is
Right.
really good. And so, I mean that like when I see a new series is coming out on Netflix, I like my first instinct is not, oh, this is gonna suck,
Mm-hmm.
or this might not be too good. Like it's automatically like, all right, this is worth checking out. I'm gonna give this a shot, even if it's outside of my desired genre that I would normally go through. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I mean, if anything, what really gets me excited about it is the fact that Sarah Paulson is the lead. She is an incredible actress. She's just got this air around her that whenever she's on screen, I'm just sucked in. She's played, for those that have seen American Horror Story, one of the things that they did was they brought back a large chunk of the cast every season and put them in different roles. So it wasn't like the same characters every season. It was a different story. It was a different time. They were different characters. And some of them did well playing a different character. Some of them you were just like, I can't unsee the last character you were, and it's not working for me. Sarah Paulson always just embodied her character, and she's a fantastic actress. You mentioned it; she was in Glass, but she's been in other movies like 12 Years a Slave and Bird Box and Ocean's 8. I've wanted to see
Who'd she play
more of
in Bird
her.
Box?
She was one of the friends in Bird Box. Or no, she was the sister that drove like crashed their car in the beginning. Like she saw something and then she
Right.
crashed it. So she hasn't she's I mean she's had she's got another movie coming out that she's starring in called Run soon, or is that a TV show? I've heard about it. It's a movie, I think. But she hasn't had a lot of like just her starring roles, other than when she's kind of the big person in the plot with American Horror Story. So to see that she is the centerpiece of this show gives me goosebumps. And then to see that there's other people like Vincent D'Onofrio. I did look this up. They've got some little cameos by Vincent D'Onofrio, Rosanna Arquette, Don Cheadle, and some other big names that'll be peppered throughout this show. So it's got a lot of talent involved, that's for certain.
And just this, like they chose their little title poster really well, because she just looks like
right
through you.
Yeah.
And I like the idea. I like how you described American Horror Story, because like I said, I wasn't into it at all, so I didn't like get into it. But how it almost seems like it was like a stage crew production who were just putting on different stories each time.
Yes,
That's pretty interesting.
it was, and that's what got me into it, and so I appreciated it for parts of it. But yeah, when it first came out, I didn't think it was scary. I thought it was a waste of time, but I was looking at it from different lens. But yeah. But the aesthetic involved in this show, the color schemes, it looks like a very well made show, and that trailer hooked me. I mean, for the first time ever hearing about this, it wasn't like maybe. It was like okay, this looks good.
I like I said, I'm not normally into horror, and I was getting into it, so I mean, we'll give it a go and see what happens.
Yeah, and one more thing, I told you that Sarah Paulson really fought hard to play Cheetah in Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And I mean, again, now it sounds like I've seen more of her work than you have, but I would when Kristen Wiig was announced as Cheetah. I love Kristen Wiig. She's done some great stuff. She's done great stuff on SNL. She was in that movie, The Skeleton Twins, I believe, with what's his name, from the guy that plays Barry from SNL. She's a great actress, we've seen, especially over the last couple of years, that a lot of comedians can really tap into villainous or even horror roles. And so when she was announced to be Cheetah, I was like, okay, this is a really interesting choice. But I have faith that Patty Jenkins will make it work, because Patty Jenkins has just, I mean, she's been the powerhouse behind the Wonder Woman films. And she just announced that she'll probably do a third one, and she'll cap it off with a third one. So when she announced that she cast Kristen Wiig for Cheetah, I was like, okay, I'll go out on a limb and trust that you're doing this, that you're going to do this right. But had I heard that Sarah Paulson was going to play Cheetah, I would have had no doubt. I mean, I have a little doubt, but not a lot of doubt with Patty Jenkins heading it. But if Sarah Paulson had been cast, I would have been like, this is going to be a force to be reckoned with, because she is a crazy character actor. She can look, gentle and naive in one glance and then ferocious in another glance. And that would have been like, I would have immediately been on board for that as perfect casting. So I'm kind of sad that she missed out on that role. But I mean, if she just turned around and picked up her own series for Ratched, good on her. I'll be happy to watch her in this.
I mean, I'm looking at them side by side, and they even look kind of similar. No, I mean, yeah, we've seen comedians play like super serious roles and do a good job with. Like, I guess I can't say that it's a super serious role, but Chris Pratt is an example that comes to mind right away. Sure. Is that he does good in serious roles, or even dramatic roles, but like thrives in comedy. So I don't know, give it a shot. But yeah, give it a shot. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I'm gonna do the same thing for Ratched here. Speaking of, if
they've invested in a series, then it can't be terrible, right? I mean, it's not like they just bought some movie that wasn't going to hit it hard in the theater. This is a full series, so they must have some faith in it.
Do you think it would have, like, just based off of what we got going on, do you think it makes more sense for it to be a series, or do you like origin stories that would have been better as films?
Well, I mean, we got a lot of flash and awe in that trailer. We didn't get a lot of story, but I can only imagine. I mean, the people, just from knowing that it comes from the crew that did American Horror Story, definitely a series. Because, like I said before, that they are excellent at weaving a bunch of storylines into a grand narrative. And what better setting to have a bunch of different storylines and personalities and little stories than an insane asylum. So you have her as the prominent key character, but we saw a little bit of her boss. We saw a little bit of her patients. We saw a little bit of her past. Why limit yourself to one movie when you could just have, we've already got the movie. That's the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We've got that movie. That's a good, solid story. But if it's 10 episodes and you can have, 9 or 10 good little nuggets of stories with her as the center character, I'm down for that.
Well, we'll give it a go.
Yeah.
I can't help but want to, I don't know, just wait and see, I suppose. But speaking of wait and see, that's kind of what Disney's doing with Mulan here. Kat, you've got to stop.
This was huge news. This was big news. And it's crazy because we had big news last week to talk about with AMC theaters and Universal.
You mentioned that.
And NATO, and it kind of ties into this. So I kind of want to talk about that first as the preface for this story, because it comes off the heels of that. So last week, we've been talking all summer about AMC is just in and out of the pot, just like they're on the verge of death, they're coming back. They're on the verge of falling apart, they're coming back,
They keep on getting out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. And then on top of that,
healing just a little bit and then pissing everybody off again.
Right. And on top of that, on a grander scale, NATO, which is not the there's two different NATOs. We're not talking about the military one. We're talking about the North American Theater Organization. They have been pissed off at Universal all summer for how Universal took Trolls World Tour straight to digital. Okay. And ever since they did that, NATO and well, AMC was said at first, and then a lot of other organizations within NATO popped on and said, we agree. They're like, we're not going to show any Universal movies. Like, you want to pull that shit? We've had a long-standing agreement to have a window in the theaters and then digital. And they were like, we understand that times are different right now, but the fact that you just did this instead of coming to us and forming some type of agreement up front, you know, that they just took that as a huge knife in the back. And so they were like, we're not going to do another Universal movie under these circumstances. You're going to have to come to the table, Universal, and we're going to have to pin some type of deal, or else, you know, you're shit out of luck in AMC theaters, which are the most screens in the world. And then Regal hopped on with that, and some of the other ones hopped on with that. And pretty much all of NATO was like, come to the table, Universal, make this right, or, you know, you're just not going to show your films. So then last week, did we hear that NATO and Universal formed an agreement? No. We heard that AMC, not NATO, AMC left their whole group of comrades and made their own deal with Universal. And people were like, are you insane? And a lot of people were just like, well, Universal saw that AMC was bleeding, and so they made this deal. Basically, the deal in short was Universal could, when they released a big movie, it would go to AMC theaters for 17 days. And then Universal could have the option to take it digitally as a rental. And AMC theaters would make 10% of that rental, which is not a lot. No. And that's for all films. So if Jurassic Park or Jurassic World 3, which I'm not excited about, but I know is going to make a lot of money, if that movie came out next week under this deal, it would be in theaters for 17 days, with, you know, the split of who gets, you know, it's a larger take for the theaters, not a big take, but it's a larger take. And Universal could just pull it and put it on streaming, and you could rent it in 2 weeks. And the theaters would get 10% of that, which is scraps. And everybody in NATO was like, that is the most horrible deal, and how dare you go and make this deal behind our backs. So that was last week.
And theaters kind of make scraps already, so it's kind of like, why would you agree to that?
And so then the question is, as a viewer, Seth, I mean, granted, things might be different with COVID, but this wasn't like this. There was no end date with this deal. This was just like going forward. So even if you thought it was slightly safe to go out to the theater, would you go see it in the theater, or would you just wait 17 days and watch it at home? You know,
for right now, especially considering like the way things have been going, I would wait the 17 days 100%.
And I guarantee you a ton of people would be there with you.
That's just not enough of a time gap. I mean,
right.
I know for a fact that there would be a not unreasonable number of, well, depending on how you look at it, not an unreasonable amount of people who would go into the theater and do that. They would jump in. They're like, you know what? Whether they want to, and bear in mind, we also have to keep this in our thoughts for like bigger theaters in bigger cities, because there are small town theaters who are already open,
right?
Where they don't have as much population density. They don't have to worry quite as much about taking that hit from social distancing inside of the theaters themselves and taking those necessary precautions. There's small towns in our surrounding area that have their theaters still open.
Right.
And they're not bothered by it at all. They're also in lower infection rated areas. So
sure.
But in our immediate area, just between you and me, I would absolutely wait the 17 days and just stream it, because first of all, that isn't a long enough of a wait period to me. I feel like it would need to be a lot longer if they really wanted to dissuade people from streaming and and jump. Did they? Did you I can't remember. Did you mention something about like a price difference between the two as far as
Um,
like
the deal
because
didn't talk about that. The deal just said that
okay
it would go as a rental, and lately most Universal rental films have been $19.99. So like, yeah,
because looking at the Mulan story, as far as Disney's going, they're talking about a premium rental fee on their streaming service of $30,
yeah. So
which is
that's
up there.
right.
But that also brings into like the point, which is I'm glad that you prefaced this particular set of Disney news, because Mulan is now being released, is now premiering, not just being released, it is premiering on Disney Plus on September 4th, which is
Mm-hmm.
not a long way away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw something also that they're going to be doing some like limited releases in theaters.
In
Obviously,
some theaters, but in most countries, in including the U.S., it'll be just on Disney Plus. Yeah,
yeah.
some countries with lesser COVID numbers, it'll have its day in theaters, but in most major markets, it'll be Disney Plus. Yeah.
Now, that premium rental fee is it's high enough to where, depending on like when you decide to go to the theater, that might actually level out to what a theater experience might end up being. It's like
For sure.
you wait for a matinee price or something like that. You get like a deal on food, or you sneak enough stuff in there where you don't have to worry about concessions, which you shouldn't do, because that's worth. If you want to support your theater, don't sneak in food, because it's
Yeah.
going completely against where they actually make their money.
Right. Right.
Yeah, $30 is like enough of a premium rental to where, I don't know. I guess it would depend on the deal that the theater was doing, to where that actually creates kind of a competitive dynamic.
Well, it's a calculated move because NATO was pissed off at Universal and AMC for the deal last week. The rest of NATO was like, "Screw you guys. That's not the deal we're going to have." It is interesting that NATO has made no comment about Disney taking a pretty big movie off the theater charts and bringing it directly to their streaming service. They have no comment in the US, which leads me to believe that there was some under the table deal, because I cannot imagine them being pissed off about Trolls World Tour and not being pissed off about Mulan. I mean, Mulan's a way bigger movie than Trolls World Tour is, and the fact that it's not going to hit, theaters is crazy. Now, the UK cinema has been pissed off about this. UK cinema owners blindsided by Disney Mulan decision. This is according to Deadline. It's a fuck you to exhibitors, is what their quote said. So they're pissed off because they had no idea about this.
We're actually reading the same article.
Yeah, they were pissed. And again, NATO was so outspoken with Universal that to have them have no comment on this leads me to believe there was some under the table deal, which I wouldn't put it past Disney.
I wouldn't put it past them, but I think it also has something to do with the sheer amount of power and fuck you money that Disney already has.
Oh, you know it. You don't want to get on the bad side of Disney, for sure.
Because you are dealing with, with Universal, yes, there are a lot of studios that are involved there. Mm-hmm. But Disney's studio power, their pull power as far as bringing people into the theaters, they are not like, they're not going to be like, well, we're just not going to show Disney properties anymore. There's no way they would be able to do that. Right. There's no way, because that will immediately, I mean, right now, not so much, because obviously the Infinity saga for Marvel is over. Theater, well, I'm really glad that I actually got it done when they did, but
yeah, right.
The if not, it would have been a completely different story. But I mean, the excitement for Black Widow isn't quite there, because everybody kind of know, like, that's the prequel dilemma that we've talked about.
I think it's rising. I think it's rising. I think
we've been with
we've been without Marvel for a while. I think in fact more people will probably go see it now than they would have in May without COVID. I think people are just biting at the bullet for new Marvel stuff now.
Sure, but we're talking about another Disney property here, and they're making this kind of like, how is this going to go move with Mulan, which I don't know. I guess it would depend on kind of like budgets between the two.
Well, they've
One,
said they released this info at a Disney. I don't know if it was a stockbroker meeting or whatever, but that's where this came off. And the immediate question at that meeting was, "Are you going to do the same with Black Widow?" And they immediately said, "This is a one-off right now," and they have no
right now.
plans. Yeah, right now. But
Keyword.
they said they have no plans to touch their Marvel properties with this type of strategy. But here's the deal. 2 months ago, I believe it was, me and you had this conversation about I did not believe Disney would do this. I was like, there's no way they're just going to drop a movie this big on their platform. It's insane. I mean, they have all the subscribers they're going to have to just drop this. Like, it might bring on some more people, but all the people they already have are already paying the $6. They're not going to pay any more. But Disney, to their marketing genius and their strategy, said, "Hey, fuck you, Josh. We're actually going to do that, but we're not going to be stupid like you thought we would. We're going to charge even the current subscribers to see this." So if you're a current subscriber, you're already paying the $6.99. You're not just going to get access to Mulan. You're going to have to pay $30 more to see it. And like we talked about, depending on where you live in the world, $30 is obviously what you pay, more than what you'd pay for a single ticket. But say you have a family of 3 or a family of 4, you'd be paying that much, if not double, depending on where you live. So that's a pretty good deal as a rental.
Yeah.
They're kind of spinning it, saying, well, it's not just a rental, guys. It's actually a purchase, because, as you know, you're going to be able to watch it as many times as you want. And they've used the word purchase. And I will just fight that a little bit, because as a rental, I believe this is a great deal. $30, you get unlimited access to this. It's $10 higher than the Universal rentals, but Universal rentals, you only get to have it for like 48 hours or something like that.
So that's an interesting thing that I didn't see, is that you get you get unlimited access to it.
Limited as long as you're a subscriber. So you're paying $30 to see it initially, but then you're also continuing to pay $6.99 to keep it. So it's not really a purchase, because a purchase would mean that if you dropped off the subscription service, you would still have it. You don't. You're actually paying $6.99 to be able to continue to have it. It's kind of like when people bought movies on iTunes. Well, if iTunes in your country lost the rights to that movie, or if you dropped off of iTunes, you didn't have that. So it wasn't really a purchase. It was just kind of an extended rental. So as long as you don't think of it as a purchase, but you think of it as an extended rental, $30 for unlimited watches, especially if you're a family, is a pretty good deal, and is a pretty boss move by Disney to say, screw you, Amazon, screw you, Vudu, and all the other streaming services. You want to see this? You got to come to Disney.
And like I'm in kind of a difficult position, because obviously we're wanting to be reviewers. Sure. So I'm probably going to see it right away. Like, I'll probably pay that 30. Like,
you and I said it up front, we really wanted to see this.
Yeah, and
based on the trailer.
And I would really like to see something new without having to leave and use like my little home theater setup for. I mean, we've been stuck in what has been like 5 months now. Throughout all the pandemic time, I really haven't like put anything on, because I don't know why. It's just kind of depressing, but to be able to like put something new on that I would have gone to see in the theater, and in as close to the theater situation as I possibly can.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. And to pay like that $30 to be safe in this situation, to where like your safety against COVID is still not even remotely close to a guarantee in the United States. Like, I mean, I understand NATO and other people's frustrations with this, but honestly, this is the this is kind of like the maneuvering that businesses are going to have to, that studios are going to have to do right now. And I mean, we're seeing it in a bunch of other places. We're seeing a bunch of different businesses having to make these adjustments, and they are major adjustments, but we're in a major situation. And so the $30 to see this film, but also have it in my library to watch again if I wanted to, like whenever or something like that. Like if I want to do my second watch and I'm still only paying 30, like that value to me is incredible. I'm a little bit surprised that they did that. Because even on like an Amazon Prime, if you do a rental, it's like $2 and you have like 48 hours to watch it after that rental and then it's gone.
Yeah, you gotta. They're thinking you're renting it and then you're gonna press play. You're not gonna like, I'll watch it this weekend or something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, if I was given the choice right now, which I know that this isn't the circumstance, but if I was given the choice right now to either pay the $30 to watch Mulan at home or wait 17 days to watch it in a theater, I'd still pay the $30. And it's not even the studio that's offering that deal. So it's just,
well, and you better believe if people like Universal, who's been doing this, since COVID happened. I mean, they did this with Bloodshot. They did this with The Invisible Man, which if you didn't get a chance to see it in theaters in the 2 weeks that it was in theaters, you could rent it early. They did this with a few films over April and May. They were kind of the first ones to get it out there. They did that $19.99 price point, but they had to cut a deal with Amazon. Excuse me, with Amazon, with Apple, with all of those services. Trust me, if they had their own streaming service like Disney, they would have done this, and they would have done it closer to 30 for sure. I think this is a boss move. It's brilliant, and it's, it might piss some people off, but I think once they applied a little bit of logic to it, like I could understand a single guy or gal who has a Disney Plus account. Obviously, they're not going to have, I would hope they don't have a party with their friends to watch this, because you don't want people coming into your house. You want to be isolated. But for a family, a 3, 4, 5-person family, this is a deal. This is a steal of a deal.
Whose Disney Plus account are you using, by the way?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But this is a deal. But that is a good question. That is a good point. So that's one of my two questions. The first question is, how long is this going to be $30? Is it going to be $30 for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and then it's just going to be added to the library? Or, I mean, if you wait a couple months, is this just going to be one of the regular titles, or is it going to be like this for like the next year? That's a question that I have. And then the other question is what you just brought up. Well, Netflix kind of has a multi-screen or multi-user deal, but they're very strict about it. Disney has a multi-user deal, multi-screen deal, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same IP address. So me and you share a Disney account. If you bought it, does that mean, unless I switched over to your profile, does that mean I would be able to watch it? Or is it not going to be transferable to profiles, which is interesting.
I assume we'll probably get more information as we go along, but I don't understand because you don't have different billing systems between profiles. So I would imagine that it would go through on the same one. But just as an interesting tidbit, like I just looked up what the standard wait time between theatrical release and physical release would be. And according to Wikipedia, which take it or leave it, most major theater chains mandate an exclusivity window of 90 days before release on physical home video and rental availability,
3 months window,
and 74 to 76 days before digital sell-through. How long does a movie stay in theaters after its release? On average, movies run for about 4 weeks in at least 2,000 theaters, and some films will run in at least 1,000 theaters for another week after that. So
unless you're in game and then you're just in the theater all summer.
So I would,
or Avatar for almost a year.
If I had to guess, I would say that it is definitely going to be available for its purchase for at least a month. At the very least,
I would say at least. I would say deep fall before, like maybe November before it comes off. I think people could wait a month. I think if faced with 3 months.
So I think they leave it up for a month and then they take it off. to where, so if you purchased it already, you can still watch it, but if you didn't, it's not available to you. And then they've got a few months where they're waiting to add it back to their digital library, and then it comes in and it's free. And however many months they decide to wait after that, maybe it's maybe it's the 90 days, maybe it's longer, who knows.
They could be, and they've done that before. They've put stuff in the Disney Vault for decades, so it wouldn't be the first time that they did that. And that could be a strategic move to get people to come on when it is part. They're already getting people to subscribe now for this, and then if they take it off, and then 2 months down the line they said, "Hey, Mulan is now free once you subscribe," then that could be another push to get subscribers. So yeah, I could see them doing that.
Well, I don't know. I'm excited for it, actually. Like I don't know if this is the best move that a theater could make, or not a theater, a studio could make, or a company could make, but we are in very different times, and it's really hard to say what the best move would be. How, like, do you not adapt to the way things are going? Do you kind of like take that hit? I think that the real big push here is just how poorly the United States seems to be handling this pandemic, and how the dates just kept on getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Just that level of unpredictability, I think, forced Disney's hand here, and I think it's going to force more studios' hands to do similar things to this. Because this is also a very simple distribution for them at this point too. Like it's way easier for them to release it on their own platform at this point than it would be to have some sort of an argument. Yeah,
right.
To have a deal like they have, like Universal has. Like I don't know how that would go. But
well, I think one more point about this is that it's it's a high number, but they got to make some money. That this is going to be pirated the day it happens, but I mean, it's going to be majorly pirated. But I think the fact that they're even charging their current subscribers, there's no legacy access to this. They're charging everybody, and that yes, there's going to be a large torrent pirating base that will steal this movie, but there's also going to be a large base of subscribers currently that are going to pay for this, and a lot of subscribers are family. A lot of people that are already subscribed to Disney Plus are not the type to pirate, so Disney's going to get some money from this, and at a $30 price point that they don't have to split with anybody, that's going to bring in some money. And it also helps. Like, imagine if Netflix did this with The Irishman or one of their big titles. The thing is, Netflix, your access to Netflix is twice as much as Disney. So I think they would have sometimes a harder sell to do this. And Disney's over here looking at Netflix and Netflix's massive subscriber base, and seeing Netflix just with apparently cash that they're just showering on people, and a backlog of stuff that they have been nonstop of releasing new content all summer. And we've been talking about this all summer about Disney's need to bring in exclusive things to their streaming service. Hamilton wasn't huge for them.
No.
It really wasn't. Like, people shut up about it the day after it was released. But this is a huge move. It's a power play. And I think they have the best chance of recouping and making a profit off of this versus any other option. And I'm kind of impressed. I'm really kind of impressed. I don't like the narrative that it's a purchase. I will fight that narrative all day. But as an extended rental, I think it's a pretty good deal.
I think it's a really smart move. I think it's again, I think they're forced into it, and I'm excited to see like what the result is going to be if this ends up going really well, to see what they end up doing with Black Widow. Because like they're saying it's a one-off, but honestly, if it works out well for them, like if they so much as break even on Mulan, and then they look at the news and they see that we're probably going to be sitting in lockdown for like their major markets are going to be in lockdown, or their theaters are going to be closed for another like 2 or 3 months, they might just do the same thing. They might just say, you know what, fuck it, this is how things are right now.
I will say this on all of because Facebook was blown up about this today and there were
Yeah.
tons of polls and tons of conversations. So there's 2 points to that. There's one point to say that almost every single thread I saw, the majority of people were saying, if this was Black Widow, I'd buy it today. Like I might not buy it for Mulan, but I buy it for Black Widow. So that is one thing. I guarantee you there's people that are willing to pay $30 today to see Black Widow. However,
I'm in that same boat. I would
yeah.
do it in a heartbeat without question.
However, not to say that Mulan wasn't going to do well. I thought the trailers looked amazing. I thought it looked like one of their most ambitious adaptations of a classic story, a cartoon Disney story. This was projected to make, $300 to $600 million. Okay. So, Black Widow, even though there's been, variances of hype with it, it's still an MCU movie. And even their most lackluster MCU movies get to that $1 billion mark or just close to it. So Disney has a lot more to lose by putting Black Widow out this way than they do by Mulan. So I think they would really have to be hurting to put out Black Widow this way. And they'd have to have some way to police it because, I mean, again, it's going to be pirated like crazy. But they have so much more to lose projected wise with Black Widow than they do with Mulan.
It's I think
because
we're stuck right.
Think how many people go to see an MCU movie multiple times in the theaters. I've seen it. I've seen MCU movies multiple times in the theaters. Yeah,
so
you don't pay $30 more than once with Disney Plus. You're not going to pay $30 the next weekend. Hell, I've gone to see a movie on a Saturday and then gone back to see it on a Sunday. So
that's still the part that's blowing my mind about this whole thing is that once you've paid that 30, you've got it. As long as you stay subscribed, which is fair. Mm-hmm. I assume as long as you stay subscribed, that's a little nuts for me because it doesn't it's not a rental at that point anymore, really.
It's an extended rental because you're paying $6.99 a month to keep watching it. But
sure, but rental, when I hear rental, I at least in these days, you rented it, you watch it, you're done.
You haven't expired. You're right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would do the same deal with Black Widow, but without the unlimited. They do $30 for 48 hours. I could see people still paying $30 to see it. And maybe paying $30 again to see it again if it's good. That could be a way I could see them doing it. But I think with all the silly backlash they're getting from this, I mean, not enough backlash for them to stop. I could see it getting a little more for Black Widow, but I could also see more people paying $30 for Black Widow, more single people, not family oriented, where they can immediately see the benefits. But I'll be interested to see what happens for sure.
I mean, it kind of brings, the whole thing that we were just talking about kind of brings up our next bit of news, I suppose, in a way.
Because it's connected.
Because Chris Nolan has been popping up in the podcast a lot, or at least as far as news is concerned. And now we see that they reissued Interstellar.
Yes. And it had a huge weekend in China.
Interstellar reissued jolts China with biggest single-day gross since cinemas reopened. Now, how much is that saying under these current circumstances? Is
of course,
there hasn't been a whole lot of they've only been opening in China in limited capacity. Even China isn't fully open as far as their theaters go and as far as a lot of their stuff goes. But yeah, as expected, Warner Brothers re-release of Christopher Nolan's Interstellar had a blast in China on Sunday, grossing $2.85 million. That gives the 2014 saga bragging rights to the Middle Kingdom's biggest single day and highest opening day gross since cinemas in low-risk areas resumed operations on July 20th. At about 7.6 million, Sunday was also the highest grossing day overall in the market post-COVID closures and contributed to a 3-day weekend that was worth 17.6 million across all titles. So obviously when we mention something like that, the first thing that we think of is that Tenet is going to be released in China first.
Yes.
Not necessarily China. I think, was it confirmed that it was China first, or that it was just overseas first, just not America first?
Scattered markets overseas.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that was what I
There's
thought.
a release schedule in the last week of, I think it starts on August 23rd for some countries, and then kind of throughout that week across the world, with the exception of America. Yes.
And there's a mention in here that Tenet is shot with IMAX cameras, and this weekend's China tally includes $660,000 from the from IMAX played screens.
Yes.
So still a significant amount of money, not quite as much, but you're still talking a little bit more than a fourth of the money on that first day.
Mm-hmm.
So, or not necessarily a fourth, but up there,
Mm-hmm.
up there. And yeah, it makes perfect sense because things are opening up over there. People are taking it seriously and things are
Mm-hmm.
reopening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so like the article is obviously speculating that this is going to mean really good things for Tenet, but do you feel that way?
Yes. For a
Okay.
number of reasons. First of
We're on the
all,
same page. Like,
yes. First of all, with the exception of Inception, most of Christopher Nolan's films are filled with white guys. So they're not, there's always a speculation of how it's going to do in China. It's just always a speculation. Uh, and the fact that Tenet is coming out, and we've seen now, China isn't just doing old movies; they're doing new movies as well. They've been doing movies that weren't able to release earlier or barely got a release, like Doolittle. Doolittle actually topped the weekend. They did more than Interstellar. Sonic the Hedgehog has not been doing well in its debut in China. So the fact that more people are going to see Interstellar, a 2014, I think it's a 2014 movie. The fact that more people are going to see that movie than a brand new movie um, speaks volumes. And as a strategy for getting China as a country hyped for Christopher Nolan's newest film, yeah, why not release Inception or Interstellar or whatever you can to get them hyped? And it's
yeah, it
brilliant
makes perfect sense.
strategy. It makes a lot of sense. And I mean, and especially something that could be featured in IMAX, because yes, Tenet is supposed to be also in IMAX. So they are I mean they're prepping China to come out for Tenet, like, remember this film that you loved? This was his last film. Come see his newest film, you know. And I think it's a bold strategy, and I think it's working for them. And again, it's something that China gets that we don't get, and it's not just happening in China.
As to say, like other
They've been
countries,
doing this
like
all over the country.
a
Right?
a bunch of places are going to get this without us. And
Exactly.
I mean, we kind of deserve it at this point because we get everything else first all the time already. So, like,
I mean, and
um,
sometimes we share it with the UK as a joint release, but
sure,
yeah, it just, the fact that more people came out to see this than brand new movies in China, a 6-year-old movie that, like we just talked about with both you and I would rather stay home, to see, mostly because it's less safe here, obviously, to go out to the theaters. But
yeah,
I think if you got a giant TV or projector and you could set yourself up nice, most people would be like, yeah, I'll just stay home and watch it. I'm not going to go to the theater and see a 6-year-old movie. But the fact that people just came out in droves, and more so to see a 6-year-old movie than a brand new movie, means that they are stoked for the newest. I mean, unless they're just all strict Interstellar fans and couldn't give a shit about Christopher Nolan, but I don't think that's the case. I think this is great way to get them hyped for Nolan's next big movie. And it's kind of exciting to see. Of course, you see other places like Korea. They've been doing fine on their own. They've got their brand new movies that have been coming out. They
yeah.
have Peninsula over there, which is the sequel to Train to Busan, that I'm just aching to see, and they've only released it in Korea. but it is interesting to see other countries doing well. You know, considering the climate, but doing fairly well with their box office, while we're just kind of like stuck in the corner in timeout.
Honestly, I think just to get the theater stuff going, like there's a theater in my hometown where they're playing Jaws, like the
Oh
original
yeah,
Jaws film. Like
well,
I would
it's an anniversary year for Jaws.
sure,
Yeah,
but at the same time, like that was released in the 70s. Like
sure.
I would 100% go and see that in the theater if I was still living down there. And also
Mhm.
we're in an area where it's a little bit safer. Cases are not up in that area. It's a little bit smaller, so they're on a limited opening essentially.
Yeah,
Um People want stuff to do. Like we've been locked up for quite a while. Like without that if you were able to go out without that level of paranoia that the slightest thing could, like the slightest slip up around social distancing or basic safety measures could lead to a serious disease. I mean, if you were able to get away from that for a night to go out, I don't care if it's a new movie or not. Like it would just be nice to have that feeling of normalcy again. And
yeah.
yeah, to do it with something that's already been released and they don't have to worry about whether it's going to make them money or not. Like yeah, 100%.
Right. But I think it's also, I mean, I am a diehard Christopher Nolan fan. I have loved
Yeah, I know.
every single movie he's put out, from The Following to The Prestige to everything. But I will be the first to say that the trailers for Tenet have not been on par with their counterparts from Interstellar and Inception. I remember the first time the main trailer for Inception came out, the main story trailer, and I was like, "Holy shit. I don't know what this is about, but this this trailer blew my fucking mind." It was huge. It was the first time you got that "Bwah," sound effect in the
Yeah,
trailers, which is
good old
overused now.
Hans
You had
Zimmer, who regrets
Yeah.
making that sound effect popular, by the
Oh,
way.
I bet you. And then you had the city folding in over itself. And the cast. It was a crazy trailer. Interstellar. I mean, it had some great visuals. It had a lot of great stuff. It had Matthew McConaughey, who was coming off his high with True Detective. Um, uh, it was a great trailer as well. Again, Christopher Nolan's amazing. And I saw the little, I think it was like an 8-minute IMAX preview that was before Godzilla last year or something like that. It was really good. It got me hyped for the movie, but the trailer felt like they were holding a lot back, or at least I hoped that they were holding a lot back, because watching a car drive in reverse outside of context is not as crazy to me as a city folding over itself.
No.
So I think somebody, rightfully so, was like, we've got to find a way to get the hype train going without spoiling the movie. And of course, there's going to be true Nolan fans. It's going to go no matter what because it's Christopher Nolan. But for the rest of the world, especially during these times, we need to just be playing the Nolan hits. Let's put all the hits out there as much as we can. We'll get them hyped up, and they'll come out for the new one. And that's what they're doing in China. And I mean, for this kind of a coming out for a 6-year-old movie, I think this spells really good predictions for Tenet.
And honestly, it's just a relief to see theaters getting content that people are still excited to go out and see. And because we
Yeah.
don't want the theater, like we were just talking about like how I would absolutely wait to digital thing rather than go to a theater. But I don't want theaters to stop thrive. Like I want theaters to thrive. And
Oh,
so
for sure.
if this is how they have to do it right now in the limited areas where they can be, because there isn't enough new content coming out that they can do, 100%. Like I'll go to Jaws, man. If they got a hold of the, I tell you, if Disney really wanted to do something, like when theaters really do open back up,
Mhm.
let's get the original theatrical releases of Star Wars and throw those back into theaters. It was like, hey,
Dude,
we're gonna put these.
they're holding on to that for some
They're
big
gonna do something with them.
some. I could imagine in 20. Let's see. What's A New Hope? When did A New Hope come out? A New
70.
New Hope came out in
80?
1977. So
77.
I would have no doubt that in 2027 on the 50th year anniversary, them doing something like that, it would rack up so much money.
Don't make me wait that long.
So much money. It's got to be an anniversary.
Don't make me wait
they've
that
had Star Wars for this long. They're building. And you got to get the stench of the sequel trilogy out your mouth.
Maybe
But
maybe 2022. And they're
no,
like the
they gotta wait
45
till
year,
that 50
the 45 year anniversary.
Okay,
like,
maybe, but I could see them doing something giant on the 50th anniversary of that. But
I don't know. Whatever theaters
like
have
you
to
said,
do in order to keep that going, like because we've got some theaters that are doing like the drive-in method, which I think is a great thing too. Like, I like one of my routes that I take for work between a couple different server rooms that I manage has a brand new theater being built. It's out in Gretna.
yes,
it's an ACX theater.
I drive by it every day.
Yeah, so do I. And like,
it looks nice.
It looks really nice, but I feel really bad for the way that it was put, like the timing that it was put together. Because
I know.
Honestly, I feel like they're getting close. Like they've got to be getting close to being finished. As soon as it
opens up, they're gonna kill. Because right now, for places like Gretna and Elkhorn, you have the Majestic on Maple, which is old. They've done some renovations, but it's not that great. And then you have Village. Yeah, and then you have Village Point, which is right there in the middle, but it's a drive for Gretna, and it's a small theater. So to have a competitor out there in arguably the ritzier part of town, oh yeah, they're going to make bank. They're going to make bank for sure.
Well, I'm hoping so, because I really want theaters to survive through this. I want theaters to be around long enough at least to show my first feature film when I make it.
There you go.
Or one of my short films. Like at least last that 20 years or something like whatever it's gonna end up taking.
I am with you though. As far as Universal's deal, I'll wait. I there's not one movie right now on their slate that I wouldn't wait 2 weeks to watch it at home. However, a Christopher Nolan film, I don't care what kind of theater setup. I don't care if I've dropped 10 grand on a personal theater setup. If there's a way for me to safely go see it in the IMAX, I'm going to go to IMAX. I am a diehard IMAX fan to the point that I can't even go to the FOMAX. I have to go to Council Bluffs to the real IMAX to see an IMAX film. And I'll do it every time for Nolan. I remember when Dark Knight Rises came out and I was living in Lincoln and my friends and I wanted to see it midnight. They had the midnight releases still. It didn't come out like 8 o'clock the day before. It came out at midnight. I got the day off. I came all the way up to Council Bluffs. When the theater opened at 10 a.m., I went there, bought the tickets, and waited in line from 10 a.m. to midnight that night so that we could get the perfect IMAX seats. So I will, if I can go to IMAX safely, I'll do it. So
over an hour drive and then
a full
12
day's
and
wait.
then 14 more hours waiting.
Yes, and it was worth it to me. It was worth it. So get your shit together, America, because I want to see IMAX films again.
Without having to wear a mask throughout the entire 14-hour wait.
Yeah, without having to risk my life, I would like to go to an IMAX film.
I'm in the same boat. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because I don't really have a lightning round this time around.
Sounds good.
Things were kind of light.
Yeah.
I want theaters to thrive. First of all, I want the economy to thrive, and we kind of need things to be able to reopen safely in order for that to happen too. But it's like I guess the summary for everything here is that we are seeing kind of an option for the future that we might see a lot more frequent. Like, given that they've done it this way to where they're going to have these release under these current circumstances, where they can't release them in a theater safely in the States. They're going to release it out on a premium rental basis. Now I can easily see them when they have a release that comes out doesn't perform super well in the theater because of who knows how many various reasons, throwing it up on their streaming service as soon as possible right after that, just to coop as much as they possibly can after that.
Yeah.
The viability of quicker releases onto digital platforms is going to be the end result for stuff like this, if not the immediate release onto digital platforms or just exclusive productions for their digital platforms.
For sure.
Maybe not even, maybe just, I mean, I hope that's not the end result, because that'll take away from theaters, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with my head pounding. So like, I'm kind of like,
I want to see if Warner Brothers and HBO Max looks at this as an option. I mean, I know it'll be a cold day in hell before they even consider it with Tenet, because Christopher Nolan would burn their place down. And equally so, they wouldn't. I can't see them ever doing it with Wonder Woman. I can't see them ever doing it with Dune. However,
hopefully by the time Dune's ready, we don't have to. But
right. However, could I see them doing it with something like Sherlock Holmes 3? Maybe. Could I see them doing it with something like Suicide Squad? Maybe. Just like Disney Plus, HBO Max has been struggling. They finally got some stuff coming out. Oh my gosh. Lovecraft Country is coming out. Yeah. And they just dropped a trailer for Raised by Wolves that I really want to see, that I heard looks amazing, and it's got my guy from Vikings in there. I just saw him in the screen cap, and I'm going to watch it as soon as we're done with this. So they got some stuff finally coming out, but they're struggling like everybody but Netflix is struggling for new content. So Warner Brothers might look at some of their smaller titles and consider doing this, because unlike Universal, they have their own platform. So why put it out on Amazon and give Amazon some money when they can just put it out on their own? So we'll see. I could see this being a huge change. But again, the fact that NATO is so quiet on this means that, to me, that they cut some type of deal and took care of NATO. And I hope that's the case. I hope Disney wasn't just like, fuck you, NATO. I hope they took care of them somehow. But the way that the UK cinemas are like, what the hell is this? Leads me to believe that maybe there wasn't.
The way that the UK reacted makes me feel like NATO probably got the same treatment. They just got shafted, but it's Disney, and they're like, that's Disney.
They're just afraid of Disney.
Disney properties, Fox properties.
Disney's like God level, Marvel, and Universal is like the bully on the block.
Just think of it. It's like the most major franchises that have been released in recent memory. You got Marvel and Star Wars, like two film, just those two film franchises that have led to something like I can see them getting a little angry and being like, all right,
why wouldn't that make them livid? Because they've made their most money off of those franchises. Theaters have. Why wouldn't that make it hurt that much more?
They're over right now, like, because they don't.
Well, I know that
they don't have as much on the docket right now. A movie on the schedule for them to come out with, but
a family Disney movie would make a theater so much more than a Universal film. I mean,
maybe that's why we haven't heard a comment yet, because NATO's like, well, if we comment now, we're just gonna piss people off, because we're just gonna fucking curse everybody out. But
yeah, and
maybe that's why we haven't seen a comment.
We'll see what happens, but it's exciting. Finally, we got some news, man. We got movement. Yeah, it's not just delayed till inevitable. We got movement. So that's exciting, to say the least.
I think we made some predictions that stuff like this would end up happening, though, and
I think everybody did. I think
it's bittersweet to have those predictions come true, but at the same time, we get to watch new stuff now. So,
but I was not expecting it this way. I mean, props to them for coming up with a way that's making people spend more money, but somehow agreeable.
I expected Black Widow more than I expected Mulan to do this. I would have thought Black Widow would have done that, because they're jumping into post Marvel hugeness.
Well, and that leads me to that other theory that we had, that Black Widow could be connected to these upcoming Marvel TV shows. Well, if Black Widow is not on the docket, but they're holding firm that these Marvel shows are going to release this fall, then maybe it's not connected. Maybe it is just a standalone film and it's not connected at all. But I agree with you. I think Mulan's going to be a test subject, and even though they're saying it's a one-off, I think they're going to be like, maybe.
As soon as they see those dollar signs, man, that can change.
Yeah.
But on that note, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this episode up, Nerf Herders. We just did a good hour, and we finally had some news for you. Finally had some news that wasn't us just kind of like pulling talking points from little stuff on Twitter.
Right.
Nerf Herders, what do you think of Mulan going straight to digital? Do you agree with the predictions that we made about all of the stuff that we were talking about, or just tell us where you thought we were wrong? Like, let's have a discussion. Be part of the conversation. Hit us up in the comments. Hit us up on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. And until next time, I'm Seth. That's Josh, and we will see you later.
See ya.